James, a hardworking office worker in his mid-40s, has been seeing odd lumps on the back of his right hand lately. He initially wrote them off as allergy reactions or insect bites, but in a few days, the lumps under his skin changed into deep grooves that eerily resembled a huge spider. Concerned and perplexed, James made the decision to conceal the strange illness from his family and seek some clarification at a nearby clinic. Dr. Roberts had a startlingly unexpected reaction when he saw James' hand. James's life took an unexpected turn when the police were summoned a few minutes later. One morning, as he prepared for another day at the office, he noticed something unusual on the back of his right hand. Initially, he dismissed the small bumps as bug bites or perhaps an allergic reaction. As days passed, the bumps transformed into deep grooves, forming a pattern reminiscent of a large spider beneath his skin. Concerned but unsure, James decided to keep this development secret from his family. As the condition worsened, James found himself increasingly preoccupied with the grotesque pattern on his hand. He wore long sleeves to conceal the grooves, even from his wife, Lisa. The decision to visit a clinic was not easy, but the anxiety gnawing at him demanded answers. On a quiet Saturday morning, James sat in the clinic's waiting room, nervously, hiding his hand from view. When Dr. Roberts examined him, the reaction was unexpected. The doctor's shock was palpable when James found himself embroiled in a surreal situation when the police were called to investigate. Despite the turmoil, James clung to the hope that the condition was merely a rare skin issue. Dr. Roberts, puzzled by the spider-like pattern, ordered a series of tests, including blood work and a biopsy. James, clutching a pamphlet on possible skin conditions, felt the weight of uncertainty as he awaited the results. At home, he maintained a facade of normality, concealing his unease from Lisa. Kittenens were the hardest as he lay awake, checking his hand under the dim light, the groove appearing more pronounced and sinister. The impact of the condition seeped into every aspect of James's life at work. He wore a glove on his right hand, hoping to deflect attention, but the glove only served to spark curiosity among his colleagues. Whispers followed him through the office, and even his closest coworkers expressed concern. Sarah from accounting approached him, her voice tinged with worry, but James deflected with a forced smile. His odd behavior eventually caught the attention of Mr. Thompson, his boss summoned to the office. James felt his heart race, aware that his secret was unraveling. Reluctantly, he showed Mr. Thompson the unsettling grooves. Shocked, Mr. Thompson listened as James recounted his visits to the clinic and the pending test results. With genuine concern, Mr. Thompson assured James of his support, encouraging him to take the necessary time to resolve the issue. Days later, a call from the clinic heightened James' anxiety. The initial results were inconclusive, necessitating further tests at the clinic. Dr. Roberts introduced James to Dr. Miller, a specialist in rare skin conditions. Dr. Miller, intrigued by the unusual case, decided to conduct more specific tests. Despite his growing anxiety, James felt a glimmer of hope, grateful for the attention his case was receiving. Dr. Miller meticulously examined James's hand, comparing the grooves to test results, yet found no match to any known condition. Perplexed, he suggested an MRI and CT scan to delve deeper. James agreed, realizing this might be the only way to uncover the truth. As he underwent the scans, the hospital's bustle provided an odd sense of comfort, and the doctor's determination gave him hope that they might solve his case. In an effort to find answers, Dr. Roberts shared detailed photographs of James' hand with other experts, reaching out to dermatologists and infectious disease specialists for additional perspectives. The severity of his condition dawned on James, and he hoped these experts could provide a breakthrough. Meanwhile, he began experiencing eerie sensations in his hand, such as odd tingling and subtle twitching, which added to his anxiety alone. At home, he doubted his sanity, wondering if these sensations were real or imagined. The sensations sometimes felt like movements beneath his skin, enhancing his paranoia and making it difficult to concentrate. One sleepless night, James stared at his hand, noticing the grooves seemed to shift slightly, which intensified his fear. Strange dreams about spiders began to invade his sleep, blurring the lines between reality and dreams. Laura, James' wife, noticed his distress and insisted on knowing what was wrong. Feeling trapped, James realized he could no longer hide his condition from her. He revealed the details of his medical journey, showing her the grooves on his hand. Shocked, Laura shifted to concern and reassured him they would get through it together. Seeing James' growing anxiety and the lack of progress, Laura suggested seeking a second opinion. She found a renowned dermatologist, Dr. Carson, in a neighboring city. Although hesitant, James agreed, hoping this visit might offer new insights. Together, they planned the trip, pinning their hopes on this next attempt. The journey to the neighboring city was long and stressful for James, who felt unsettling movements inside his hand, increasing his anxiety as the sensation of something crawling under his skin made the journey nerve-wracking. Upon arrival, they hurried into the clinic, seeking answers. Dr. Carson, an experienced dermatologist, greeted them warmly and examined James' hand with curiosity and confusion. He found the case extraordinary and took new samples and high-resolution images, promising to run special tests. Despite his calm demeanor, Carson's furrowed brow indicated that this wasn't an ordinary case, which was both reassuring and frightening for James. After reviewing preliminary results, Dr. Carson expressed concern, suggesting that the issue might go beyond dermatology. He referred James to an infectious disease specialist, Dr. Roberts, known for diagnosing complex conditions. Although the idea of another specialist was daunting, James and Laura were desperate for answers. Dr. Carson made the necessary arrangements for them to see Dr. Roberts immediately leaving the clinic. James and Laura felt a mix of emotions. Laura hoped that Dr. Roberts would finally provide answers, while James felt frustrated by the delays. The eerie grooves on his hand loomed large in his mind, casting a shadow over any optimism. Despite the uncertainty, they hoped Dr. Roberts could offer the breakthrough they needed. While waiting for their appointment, Laura searched the internet for information, hoping to find someone who had experienced something similar. She spent hours on obscure medical forums and articles, occasionally finding cases resembling James. She pointed out a detailed post about a rare condition to James, which renewed her determination. At the clinic, Dr. Roberts received an urgent call from a specialist he had contacted for a second opinion. The feedback was alarming, as the patterns on James' hand were highly unusual and potentially sinister. Dr. Roberts felt a chill, realizing the case was far from a simple dermatological issue. Immediate action was required, and he called Laura, instructing them to come to the clinic first thing the next morning. Laura and James received Dr. Roberts' urgent call late in the evening, sensing the gravity of the situation. The urgency added to their mounting stress, but they understood the necessity for immediate action. Meanwhile, Dr. Roberts contacted local law enforcement due to the unusual nature of the case, which had elements beyond medical science. He explained the bizarre patterns and potential risks, advising authorities to be discreet but on alert as they prepared for their next appointment. James and Laura grew more anxious. Laura packed a small bag with essentials, while James stared at his hand, wondering what would come next. A sense of dread hung in the air, intensifying with each passing minute on the drive to the clinic. The tension between James and Laura was palpable. Laura tried to keep her voice steady as she asked what they might find. This time, James shrugged, unsure but fearing the worst. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unsaid fears, as they braced themselves for whatever revelations awaited them at the clinic. Dr. Roberts and Dr. Miller greeted them with grave faces. They explained that, despite consulting top specialists, the answers remained elusive. More tests were needed, and Dr. Roberts expressed his frustration. However, something alarming caught Dr. Miller's attention. The pattern on James' hand resembled certain victim identification marks in trafficking. James and Laura exchanged horrified glances. As Dr. Roberts clarified that it wasn't a diagnostic conclusion, but concerning nonetheless the implication that James' condition could be linked to trafficking, horrified them. Laura's voice quivered. As she asked if this was a possibility, Roberts replied carefully, stating they didn't know. Yet James stared at his hand and disbelieved, while Laura squeezed his unmarked hand, trying to offer comfort. Dr. Miller emphasized the need to consider all possibilities, though it offered little reassurance. The arrival of 2 police officers at the clinic added another layer of tension. Detective Harris and Officer Lee walked in, announcing they were there to investigate a potential trafficking ring. James felt a chill as Laura gripped his hand tightly, sensing his anxiety. Officers assured them that the police involvement was purely precautionary for their safety. Roberts and Detective Harris explained that these steps were necessary, which slightly relieved James and Laura, despite their fear. James began to connect strange occurrences at his workplace, mentioning odd encounters with new staff and secretive behavior. Laura urged him to share these details with the detectives. Detective Harris and Officer Lee decided to take James and Laura to a secure facility for further questioning, emphasizing their safety. The ride was tense, filled with discussions about their fears and speculations. At the facility, the detectives reviewed James' history, urging him to recall even the smallest details. James recounted workplace anomalies and a peculiar night on a business trip where he met shady figures with unsolicited business proposals. Detective Harris and Dr. Roberts examined a pattern on James' hand resembling a spider, suspecting it was linked to illicit activities. They documented the pattern with a high-def camera and sent the images to a forensic lab hoping for answers. Given the potential danger, Detective Harris placed James and Laura under police protection, arranging for them to stay at a safe house. Although they felt fear, they complied, knowing they'd be living under law enforcement's watchful eyes. Weeks passed without direct links to trafficking emerging from the investigation. Detective Harris and his team faced dead ends, leaving James and Laura feeling both relieved and impatient. The safe house, once a sanctuary, began to feel like a cage. Despite the pressure, Detective Harris remained diligent, updating them regularly and re-examining James' life for clues. James appreciated the effort but couldn't shake the fear, feeling the need for answers and resolution. An anonymous call to Laura dropped cryptic hints about their situation, suggesting someone high up in James' company held the key. Laura relayed the message to James and Detective Harris, who saw it as a potential breakthrough. Harris traced the call to a suspicious location with ties to unresolved cases and planned a raid, which was their best chance uncovering the truth. In a dramatic raid, police officers searched the premises and discovered a hidden room behind a painting packed with illegal documents. Detective Harris scanned the paper, his expression grim, as James and Laura watched their fate intertwined with the operation. "We've hit the jackpot," Detective Harris muttered to his team as they collected boxes of files, potentially unlocking the secrets of James' condition at the station. The evidence was analyzed thoroughly. Detective Harris was excited as more pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. These documents support the theory that James' condition was part of human experiments, he told Officer Lee. Harris pointed out details that matched their suspicions, solidifying the notion that James had been an unwitting subject in a sinister plot. James was stunned as Detective Harris revealed their findings. The documents describe experiments involving spider, like microchips implanted under the skin. Harris explained James. Disbelief was evident. Harris nodded, showing detailed diagrams and notes. They were designed to control people. He explained the gruesome details mirrored the grooves on James. Hand revealing his condition was no random anomaly. As Detective Harris continued, the full horror of the scheme unfolded. "These chips were used by human traffickers to mark and control victims," he said with disgust. Laura gasped, gripping James' hand tightly. The documents detailed how traffickers used the chips for tracking and compliance. Each page was a grim revelation of cruelty while inflicted on countless individuals. James could barely process the information. James learned the truth about his condition. "Your hand was a failed attempt to mark you years ago," Detective Harris explained. James stared at the grooves, remembering an unsettling business trip. The traffickers had tried to implant him, but something went wrong, leaving only the grotesque pattern. "I've been living with this for years." Unknowingly tied to these monsters, he muttered, a mix of anger and relief washing over him. The investigation revealed shocking connections. High-ranking individuals at your workplace are implicated in the trafficking scheme. Detective Harris declared. James' mind reeled with images of his colleagues. "Are you serious?" He gasped. Harris nodded, holding up a list of names. Recognizable figures from his office were involved, abusing their positions to facilitate the illegal operations they'd been hiding in plain sight. Harris added the enormity of the betrayal settling in. With the gathered evidence and testimonies, the police launched a full-scale operation, one by one. The individuals involved were arrested. "We've got them," Detective Harris announced triumphantly. For James, watching the news reports of the raids brought a sense of closure. The main perpetrators were behind bars, their influence dismantled. It was a significant victory, though the scars of what they had endured would remain. Justice was served, but the personal journey was far from over. James and Laura spoke with counselors trying to cope with the trauma and implications of their ordeal. It'll take time, their therapist advised, offering strategies to manage the intense emotions. James struggled with feelings of violation and anger, while Laura focused on supporting him. Their family dynamics shifted as they navigated this new reality. Despite the resolution, the road to emotional healing was daunting, filled with uncertainty and lingering fears. James spent hours reflecting on the grooves on his hand. He now understood their sinister origin, each line representing a failed attempt to control him. The knowledge brought a mix of relief and sorrow. "I'm glad we uncovered the truth," he said to Laura one evening. Knowing the story behind those marks helped, but it couldn't erase the years of confusion and fear. Acceptance was slow, but each day brought a little more clarity. Despite the closure from the arrests, James and Laura faced an uncertain future. The experience had changed them, leaving indelible marks on their lives. "We have to keep moving forward." Laura assisted her optimism. Unwavering, they took it day by day, rebuilding their lives from the wreckage. James started a journal documenting his journey as a form of catharsis. Together, they faced the future, determined to overcome the shadows that still lingered from their harrowing experience. Thank you so much for watching.